Cool. I think it's your turn to introduce Yashoda. I think. I can't remember.
Cool. So, Karrie, how do you want to be introduced?
Um, a comic creator.
Comic creator, graphic novelist extraordinaire, and do you have a Twitter handle or anything you want us to shout out?
It's just at Karrie Frantzman.
Okay, great. So we're going to do our 5 seconds of silence and then start?
Yeah.
Okay, 5 seconds starting now. Thanks everyone for joining us for our latest edition of Uncaring Universe. We are very pleased to have with us. I'm just going to do that again because
You
that was
forgot the name
clumsy.
of the podcast.
Yeah, I know. I did actually forget the name of the podcast. Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Uncaring Universe. We are very excited to have with us a very special guest, Karrie Frantzman, comic creator and graphic novelist extraordinaire. You can find her on Twitter as Karrie Frantzman. She can spell that for you because I certainly can't.
Sure, it's KarrieFrantzman.
Exactly like it sounded, kind of. Cool. So we're gonna have a great conversation today. Some of the topics we have planned: the Edinburgh Book Festival has come up. We're gonna try and stay away from the Hugos, but I anticipate that it will inevitably come up.
Don't say inevitably. We'll do our best.
Maybe inevitably. It will inevitably come up. And we're gonna have a little chat about comics in general and kind of the role they're playing and kind of just even outside the publishing industry. So, Karrie, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're working on?
Sure, yeah. My name's Karrie. As I said, I'm a Scottish comic artist living in London, and I do all sorts of things. I love visual storytelling, so I do comic articles for newspapers, graphic novels, just regular comics. I even do like comic sculptures and digital comics. I'm just a big comic geek.
What's a comic sculpture?
Good question. I like playing around with the definition of what a comic is, so I've made a couple. One which is built in a doll's house, so you look through the windows sequentially and you read the story. It kind of looks like I guess I thought a doll's house looks like a waffle grid comic with 9 panels, so by looking through the little windows you can read a scene which I sculptured in each window, and it kind of unfolds as you move down the house.
Wow. And where can we see that?
I don't know. It's currently I've got one comic sculpture on display at Manchester Art Gallery if anyone's there, but it's only there till the 31st of August. That's kind of a paper one which you read as you move around. But you can check stuff out on my website. It's karriefrantzman.com.
Amazing. Is that something that kind of exists? I mean, it's not anything I've ever heard of, but you're more of an expert. Is that the kind of thing anyone's done before, or do you think you're maybe the first person to make a comic sculpture?
Yeah, it's funny because when I was doing it, I read Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics when I was much younger, and as soon as he defined what a comic was, which was I can't even get off the top of my head.
Young, it's okay. It was a while ago.
You know, Will Eisner talked about comics as sequential art, and then Scott McCloud talks about it as juxtaposed pictorial and other images in deliberate sequence intended to convey information and produce an aesthetic response in the viewer. Ha! That's a direct quote. Wow.
Nailed it.
And as soon as he said that,
Impressive.
I was like, can you make a comic out of mosaic? Can you make a comic out of, a jewelry box? Can you make digital comics? How can we play with that definition? So I thought I was being really avant-garde and pushing the boundaries, and then I started looking at the history of comics, and I saw examples like Trajan's column in Rome, which was a 3D comic sculpture like round a column, or the Bayeux tapestry where they're embroidery, and I realized that I'm not original at all.
So you're operating them with like a very broad definition of it as kind of sequential visual storytelling.
Yes, I am, and that's kind of how it's a really tricky one to define. And once you make something, people, you know, come and question it. So I had in Belgium, I had an experimental comic exhibition, and people were coming up and saying, wait, you know, this can't be mass produced. And then, you know, did that ruin some of the kind of democratic socialist elements of comics being for the people, non-elitist, you know, not a single object? So it was quite interesting.
And what did you say to them?
Interesting.
It's a good point.
Sorry, I dived up into the deep end. We should have done some...
Calling your socialist credentials into question immediately.
Maybe comic socialist credentials rather than mine, hopefully.
It is an interesting point, though. I mean, yeah, I haven't in a long time kind of given that much thought to this kind of medium. When I was studying literature at uni, I did a bit on woodcuts and satire and political satire, which were, you know, some of the earliest form of comics as well. But yeah, it's interesting that there are people out there thinking that that's what they should be, like incredibly mass-produced, very accessible, and well, it's always good to have that kind of thing. You don't want too many things to be elitist, but I mean, you got to draw a boundary. And I mean, how important is it to you that you can do some much more one-offs, original stuff like the sculpture, what's the balance you'd like to have in how you spend your time there?
It's a good question. I think nowadays we've got so much mass media. So I make a comic sculpture like that doll's house, and someone came to an exhibition and videoed it on their phone and then put it up on YouTube, and suddenly it is mass, you know, kind of massively accessible. Is that right? Massively?
It can be.
It can. Yeah, you know, like an accessible way of viewing that story, but it's not, you know, the same experience. So I think that's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Hmm.
So I'm wondering, you know, as you've been going to these experimental comic exhibitions and things like that, what are the more interesting kind of, how do I put this, ways of stretching the definition of comics have you seen?
Well, I mean, in the UK we've got Daniel Merlin Goodberry, who's doing loads of really exciting digital comic experiments. So he does he did a comic game. That was the last thing I saw, where you make your way through a narrative, and it's what he terms a hypercomic. A hypercomic's like hyper narrative. Remember the choose your own adventure stories, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Really big in the 90s. So
yeah, I know.
going through a forest, and there's a dragon, and he's going to kill you, and do you fight him or do you run away? If you fight him, you go to page 32. If you want to run away, you go to page 104. Anyway, so he started playing with hyper comics and seeing if you could create comics which you could choose your own narrative through the comic. So you can do it digitally if you're following a sequence of panels, and then you can go up and follow the page up, or you can go down. I've seen it in galleries done by Dave McKean, and he did one where you read comic panels along the wall, and then it kind of the path diverges, and you have to decide if you turn left or right. Or
cool.
Really, really cool stuff.
Oh, nice. So it actually blends in your physical element to it.
Yeah. So, taking the whole immersive experience. It's great.
So with the first example you described, like what is the difference then between that kind of digital narrative comic experiment and actual kind of computer game?
Well, I've only seen Daniel's one example, and I don't know what he's. I'm not like up to date with what he's done recently, and you should definitely check out his website. But what I saw was a game called about a duck, and the duck.
A duck has an adventure.
Oh, it's duck. That
cool,
goes
right?
on an adventure, and you follow him, and then the path splits. You can go up or down, left or right, and you kind of get points according to how the story unravels. So if you pick a path and he does one thing, you score some points, and if you pick a different path, you might lose some points. And the duck dies quite a few times.
Oh, that's sad.
It's got narrative.
What's the best possible ending for the duck?
Not being dinner.
Yeah.
Chinatown and some great, shredded ducks now.
Oh. Well, I'll definitely be checking it out. I'm a big fan of all things duck. Comics. That sounds like a pretty great combo. You showed what you said about the difference of them being computer games made me think of visual novels and which is like a huge genre in Japan. I mean, I kind of play a lot of them on like the PlayStation Vita and stuff. It's like a real niche. Karrie, are you familiar with like visual novel games?
No, tell me.
Well, it's pretty much, yeah, what you're kind of talking about. It's yeah, huge in Japan. Like I say, starting to kind of export now, and it's very much that. It's very little game. Sometimes it's like a very simple kind of puzzle in like a 3D room or whatever, but it's pretty much just an interactive choose your own adventure kind of comic style. There's an amazing one called Virtue's Last Reward, which has like a, without spoiling anything, a kind of pseudo time travel element. So it's a bit choose your own adventure, but it's like you get to the end of the story, but then you can almost go into like a parallel universe where some details will be different. And once you've gone through a few of those, it kind of shows you the bigger picture. And there's another really cool one called Danganronpa, which is a bit like Battle Royale, but the kind of main antagonist is this weird robotic, like split personality bear called Monokuma. And it's very kind of quirky and Japanese, as you can imagine, but yeah, they're starting to become really popular as games. The best one, which they've also made an anime of recently, which is on Netflix, is called Steins Gate, which also has a time travel element, strangely enough.
Interesting. Because I've noticed in other games as well, like non-Japanese games, I think things like, I can't remember most recently, but I know Mass Effect, you can do this, where you can choose like narrative heavy or action heavy or something in the middle, and the narrative heavy version, it's basically like the choose your own adventure. It's mostly totally the cutscenes, and then you kind of pick the next direction. It's interesting. All these media are kind of coming together in a very weird way.
Yeah.
I think Choose Your Own Adventure was one of the first examples of kind of interacting before the internet came along.
Definitely, right. Yeah.
That's why it suits it so well, and that's why so many people, who are doing digital storytelling in its many forms are kind of playing around with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Choose Your Own Adventure combined with like Dungeons and Dragons has to be pretty much the main like inspiration and basis for almost every computer game, and probably a lot of visual novels, a lot of comics these days as well. So yeah, it's definitely like a convergence. So I know that you said we went into the deep end.
Yeah.
Let's dial it back a bit.
Official now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, an obvious question, but it's always fascinating to hear is like, how did you first get into comics? You said you were reading Scott McCloud from like a young age, but what was the journey that kind of took you to where you are now?
Well, yeah, what is your own personal choose your own narrative?
We could play this.
Yeah.
Then I'll tell you if you're right. Maybe I'll end up with some more glamorous ending. If,
that would be an amazing podcast.
We can choose your next adventure. So I don't know, maybe the next year of your life, you should just ask Yashoda and I, and we'll tell you what to do.
Walk left away from the dragon.
So, yeah, I mean, I say like when I was younger, but that was 10 years ago. But I only got into comics when I was in my 20s. I'm giving everyone a clear idea of how old I am, if you can do the math. But I read my first graphic novel in that kind of the form which I recognize that today. When I was about 23 and had finished uni, and I didn't study art or anything. I studied psychology and sociology, and went into Waterstones, and there was like 2 graphic novels there, and one of them was Daniel McLeod. God, my brain's not going. Daniel Clowes. Sorry, I'm getting Scott McCloud to Daniel Clowes and Ghost World.
Ah, yeah, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I'd been to see it at the cinema, so it was quite a mainstream way of getting into comics, really. And I read that in one sitting, and then just called my sister, and I was like, oh, it's one thing, I'm in love, we have to make these. And she was like, yeah, I'll write, and you can draw, and she was all on board, and then she betrayed me.
No.
He left me and didn't do any writing, and I had to do it all myself.
That's terrible. How much did she betray you? Did she go into banking?
So she's putting her time to good use, right?
Wait, sorry, what was it you said she did?
She's an academic.
Oh, an academic. Oh, yeah, no, that's not as bad. Well, she can
Not
change the system
quite
from
as
within
bad.
and teach. Maybe she can teach graphic novels. Something
I've
like
been raving to her about them. I didn't think she got the bug as much as I did, but I'm trying to convert her.
Keep at it.
After
So,
2 years.
so from reading Ghost World, which actually, even though I know it's like so seminal, I still not read. It's like my
How have you managed to miss it?
well, sometimes like in every medium there's like that classic, and you know
Yeah.
about it, and you know you should experience it, but you're like, it's so classic. Like I'll get around to it one day. You don't have that some excitement. So anyway.
Yeah, this is like I just saw Groundhog Day for the first time about a month ago.
There you go, yeah. And it's like how virtually, well, a surprising amount of people have never seen Star Wars. And whatever you think of them, it's obviously influential. And people are just like, yeah, I don't know. You hear so much about it. But I digress. Karrie, from reading Ghost World to well, now, it's your profession, it's your living. What were those steps?
So, okay, to give you a really edited version, because I guess I do so many different things. I
Hello?
Oh, you're back. We
I got
you.
lost there.
Yeah.
You got me?
Yeah, you're back. We lost you at well, yeah, just go from the beginning.
Yeah, so to give a condensed version, I basically started off like doing my own self-published comics, and I did one for an ex-boyfriend. He was an ex because of the comic. No, I'm joking. It wasn't that bad.
That bad, huh?
And I did one for my friend for her birthday, and then I took them along to my very first comic convention, and got them in some anthologies there. The Girly comic, which was around a long while ago, and then started going to conventions, getting tables, and sort of selling my wares, and they were all really handmade. And then after about 2 years of doing that, I decided I'd love to do it professionally, and I looked around, and one of the only places publishing comics in the UK was newspapers with the little comic strips.
Okay.
So I did like 20 little comic strips and sent them off to newspapers, all the newspapers, like literally all the newspapers. And I got lots and lots of rejections and one acceptance from the Guardian.
Wow, of all the ones to get accepted by.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I'm still wondering if it was like the Daily Mail, if I would have.
Then they'll officially take your socialist card.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know.
Just think what your comics might have been about for the Daily Mail.
You could do a visual representation of all the Daily Mail comments.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Not that the Daily Mail would be progressive enough to run that, but
that would be fine, wouldn't it? Giving a feast to the trolls.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought I got that, and that was my big break. I didn't really know how to draw comics properly, drawing them, and I was just using like biros, and I'd never really colored before on using a Wacom tablet, so I was learning. Like I was making all my mistakes in a very public format. So I was doing like an autobiographical comic strip for that, and then. That finished, the recession came along and they decided 3 comic strips was too many, and the other one was Steve Bell, so Steve Bell wasn't going to bow out. No. So I left and went into the Times, and I did like a 20-part story which you can read on my website called The Night I Lost My Love, which was like it was a serialized weekly. It was about a girl who, kind of film noir, David Lynch type story. And then from that, got my first graphic novel, The House That Grown, published, and then my second, Death of the Artist, came out this year. And now I just do all sorts of bits and pieces, whatever kind of comes along. As long as it's visual storytelling, comics, then I love it.
Amazing.
That's great.
That was a short version.
That's phenomenal. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
No, you go.
Oh, you. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, would love to hear more detail on the long version. Hopefully another time, or if we have you back, because it's always so interesting to hear. And I'm sure there are so many weird little details and kind of ups and downs along the way. But yeah, while we are on a time limit, looking to the future, what have you got coming up, and then much further down the line, do you have any, massive, as of yet unrealized ambitions that you're kind of holding on to?
Oh
So
yeah.
short term and the long term looking like for you?
Okay, so currently, what's going on at the moment? So I've got my graphic novel Death of the Artist out, and talking about that, touring around, doing various book festivals and things, talking about that book, and then I've just finished 6 pages for the Broken Frontier anthology, which I don't know if you guys are aware of, but
No, not heard of it.
it won this amazing Kickstarter campaign, and it got like $53,000 of funding or something insane, which
Amazing.
I did
Awesome.
not imagine was possible for. That sounds like a film budget.
What's the anthology? What kind of thing is it?
It's Broken Frontier, which is a comic website. They
Right.
do really good stuff, and they represent lots of small press people as well. But they've got like 40 different artists doing stories on the theme of breaking frontiers.
Cool.
So I did a comic about, it's kind of a photography comic, which I've kind of photoshopped the weird 1980s freakish cartoon over.
Oh,
Yeah.
neat.
Sounds terrifying.
It's
Sounds
terrifying.
amazing.
So it's about a girl who one day sneezes really hard, and this kind of weird kind of cross between a Care Bear and something else comes out her nose, and it says "Mommy," and she squishes it, and then increasingly these kind of cartoons come out of her.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that's the story for that one. It's a bit weird. And
Just
then,
strange little quick coincidence. One of my best friends, Joe,
yeah.
who is the best unpublished writer I've ever read. It's really weird. He's like an absolute genius, but he just doesn't kind of, don't know, have that ambition to like really put his stuff about. But his writing's incredible, and he wrote a novel called Brasslands, which is about a man who sneezes up brass instruments.
Oh wow.
Oh, fun.
You just reminded me. Yeah, it's like we're sneezing out trumpets and things.
Aww. Joe, if you're listening to this, that's your wake-up call.
Exactly.
You can sneeze anything you want. Just dream big.
If you could sneeze anything you wanted, Yashoda, what would you sneeze?
Money.
You can't say money.
No, I'm just sneezing thousands of dollars. No, I don't know, to be honest. Maybe a guitar or two, like a vintage guitar.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool.
That's gonna hurt.
Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable.
I'd go for
You
something.
could make some kind of experimental song based on the sound of the strings being plucked as it comes out of your nostril.
Love it. I can see the concept album now.
Nostril music.
Yeah.
Nostril Sessions 3. Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Danny? What are your nostril sessions?
My nostril sessions, I think I'd sneeze something smaller. I'm always losing and misplacing pens, like really nice, like writing pens, like pilots. So
Yeah.
I might sneeze out Staedtler pigment liner 0.5s. Yeah, I mean, I'm holding one, which is.
Danny's like in the post-rock, post-drug, like the music's no longer good part of the desert sessions. I mean, the nostril sessions.
Yeah, pens are my rock and roll now, not my excess. So what about the far future, Karrie?
Oh wait, no, I've not even finished my current.
Oh, sorry.
Sidetracked with the nostril.
Terrible. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, God. Danny.
No, I was enjoying that. I was surprised to hear that it's writers who also geek out about pens. I thought that was just artists. Good to hear.
Oh no, I have a serious pen addiction, though it's not as bad as my notebook addiction.
Oh, I love a good notebook.
I love a good 1,000 notebooks.
Yeah.
Do you get that thing of if you draw something bad in it or you write something bad, then the entire notebook is tarnished, and you have
Yes.
to throw it away and start on a completely fresh one.
I absolutely have this problem, and it makes me worry that I'm secretly psychotic. But
Yeah. I have an image of you both now, like misspelling a word or Karrie like colouring out
It's
the
done.
line of it and just tearing the notebook up, like nah.
Gone, foul book.
Yeah, just like burning it on the stovetop. It's a good excuse to buy a new one, I guess.
So the other thing which I'm working on is in my notebooks, my undestroyed ones, is it's a comic about which I'm doing for the Arts Council, imagining what would happen if the world had no art. That's quite interesting. It's like another 6-page comic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. What do you think would happen if the world had no art?
I mean, I don't think that would ever happen. There will always be art of some form, right? Like even the cavemen had art.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting looking at like totalitarian states when they try to take art away. And what happens when it goes underground? I think it always goes underground, right?
Yeah, I mean, the need for human expression and creativity is like virtually as important as food and shelter.
Yeah.
I think that people would just lose the will to live if it was completely just outlawed and whatever, like desolate.
I think what's more realistic, and I worry about this all the time when I think about the future of the internet, is not that it's not that people will stop making art, but it'll just be impossible to discover genuine expressions of art because the internet is being taken over by, everything's being bought out. Every blog is being bought out. There's no space anymore for a new voice to kind of break in unless it's already attached to one of the big publishers, which is kind of a scary state of being. And in some ways, I feel like offline there is still the potential for discovery, and that potential is just being erased on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even Karrie, like you were saying, if your sculpture, the people or whatever that like took the video and then posted it on YouTube. Now I've spent a couple of years working for a YouTube company, and I'm a big believer in it. But what I worry about is that kind of thing, just of people having so much access to facsimiles of the thing. So you get like one or two people. 20 years in the future, you do an exhibition. And so few people go because it's so much easier for everybody just to see like a video that one person's taken or a 3D hologram or whatever on their like Google Glass or whatever. And it's like once you have access to everything, first of all, it's like paralysis of choice, and then also like why spend a day going to see one thing when in 10 minutes you could see art from every corner of the world? So it's like I
thought when I saw the Banksy Dismal Land, I don't need to go.
What was your reaction to that? I'm curious because I've seen a lot of kind of vitriol online about it, and I unfortunately don't know enough about it to know. But I'm curious what your opinion is.
I just think Banksy is one of those things which is just like one idea, and then you got to
take it to its extreme.
Yeah, like I mean, it's so simplistic. We've got, you've got the Disneyland castle, but it's in disarray. Okay, I get it. You got the, I mean, like they're so simple. You could write the idea in a sentence, and I don't think they'd have much more. It's not the kind of thing which I like stuff which makes you think or question it.
Yeah.
And I just don't. I mean, good on him for a lot of other reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just
for me, to go.
For me, the idea of taking Disney on as a target is just such a bizarre, like, they have their issues, but in many ways, I think they're trying to be innovative and trying to create a space for creativity in ways that I feel like there's so many other worse operators out there for him to take on. Just to take on the Disney myth seems kind of lazy.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's a very easy target. And like you say, for all of once you're so high up the tree, it's so easy for everybody else to see your asshole, right? I mean, that's Disney. It's so easy to take the piss off. But ultimately, they've made a very physical space with Disneyland where a lot of kids through the ages love to go, and you can have tangible experiences, and they have rides, and they're innovating with animation, with films. I mean, even in their acquisitions. So.
I mean, there's a very interesting PBS documentary coming out. I watched just the trailer for it, but it is taking on the idea of the fantasy land as created by Disney and how it's very dangerous when you have kids go there and thinking this is the epitome of, you know, kind of happiness and perfection, because you'll notice very carefully that there's no African Americans except as represented in very, very ugly cliches. Like, you still have Brer Rabbit at Disney World, and same thing with Native American. Yeah. Again, in Disney World, it's represented as cliches. Yeah, and the whole thing about Epcot Center is that it's all cultural cliches. So there is this darkness underlying it, the simplicity, but I think also for a kid to just jump in and enjoy it, you know, they've figured out that simplicity is the easiest way to get them in, and so I can kind of see both sides of it. But
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like, yeah, I think you know, Disneyland's never going to be great at. I mean, even now, if you look at the face shapes and the types of women represented, I mean, all the women have to be beautiful and pretty and cute, and all the men get to be a variety of different characters. You know, it's not exactly the place where you're gonna find.
No.
But that's why I think Inside Out is so important. Like, I don't know if you guys have both seen Inside Out yet, but
I'm desperate to see it.
No, I've not seen it.
Yeah, it's gone. You should have.
Brilliant. It is. I cannot even express to you how. So, without going into total hyperbolic nonsense, what it does for me, and you know, you can keep this in mind when you're watching it, is like neuroscientists have come out and said that is the most accurate representation of depression they've ever seen on film. Like, it's very deep, it's very carefully crafted. It makes a real argument for sadness as an important part of the human experience, which I think is incredible, because Disney is all about happiness and light and bubbliness, and all their characters are that way. And the kind of narrative is very much that, like, you can't just have joy all the time, because it affects you in this very deep way. It's just lovely, like the way they put it together. Like, it's been interesting to me because every adult I know that's seen it absolutely loves it, and the kids kind of don't get it, because it's very deep and it's very adult, and the way it addresses emotion and depression is just so recognizable. And it's really interesting that Pixar chose to make this very creative exploration. And there's also really interesting stuff they do with art, like as the main character, we're in her brain as she kind of grows older, and how her dreams evolve, and the actual visual styling of her dreams evolve.
Cool.
Like, it's very clever in every way. It reminds me of kind of those 1940s Hanna-Barbera, like the dot and the line and things like that just make you so excited about really simple shapes and the things they can be. So.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just Googling it now. Am I allowed to Google while we
of course you are.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
As long as we can't hear you typing, you can do whatever you want. Yeah.
It does look absolutely amazing. Yeah, I've only ever heard good things about it. I think they've come up with a bit of a hit. But yeah, interesting as well if it's skewing slightly older. But I'm sure the kids, even if they don't quite get the nuances, they'll be getting dragged along
But that's the thing. I think the visuals are so fun. Like, even if you don't understand the story, like, there's a lot for the eyes, which I have to say is not something I'm used to from a Disney Pixar product. I mean, they're pretty good at crafting interesting looking characters, but not like so much as a visual experience.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I don't think it's on at the cinemas anymore, but as soon as I can, I'll be watching it in one way or another.
One way or another, exactly.
One way or another, yeah. You know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean.
I'll find a way.
Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Legally.
Well, Disney barely put anything up on Netflix. I think it's a licensing thing. Not in Europe anyway, which is a shame.
That is a shame.
Like many, many years old. But have you successfully Googled it now, Karrie?
Yep.
It looks good, right?
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Cool. So, like I imagined we would, we've got a hell of a lot to talk about and already kind of running out of time. But one thing Yashoda and I both really wanted to talk about was the Guardian Masterclass that you ran recently. So, do you want to start off just by telling us a bit about what the talk was, what the concept of your masterclass was?
Yeah, sure. I've done like a couple of them now. In fact, I think I'm on my third or fourth. But
right, cool.
Yeah, they do really well. I was really surprised because I didn't think that many people in the UK wanted to learn how to create successful comics and graphic novels, but apparently they do. So we're getting like 30, 40, 50 people per class, and the numbers seem to be growing. So I'm like creating an army of people who are going to be competing for all the very few spaces of publishing, opportunities in the UK.
Yeah.
What am I doing?
You're setting them all up against each other.
You're creating your own competition.
I know, It's crazy. It's foolish. But it's interesting because I think there's so many people who are really gifted at drawing, telling stories and writing, but maybe they're less aware about the kind of business side of promoting their work. So what my class does is it talks about comics and graphic novels and then kind of looks quite a lot at the kind of behind-the-scenes pitching to editors and publishers, and how to find work, how to, what kind of goals you want to set yourself, how to write briefs for yourself. So it's quite like goal-orientated, I guess.
Yeah.
That's really interesting because when you said you were going to be at the Edinburgh Book Festival this weekend, and one of the first things that pops into my head is like, what would a comic creator or graphic novelist get out of something like that, especially when you already have such a strong digital presence?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I necessarily have such a strong digital presence. I'm awful at Twitter. I just don't get it. I wrote emails like a week later. I'm not good at that. Facebook is much better. I'm much better at that. But I don't know. Like I think that there's a real kind of brilliant thing about connecting face to face with people and kind of coming together and talking about ideas and being inspired. Like I love book festivals. I get invited to quite a few now, especially through the British Council. They kind of fund quite a lot of me going to exciting book festivals in all these exotic locations, from sort of Russia to Lebanon, and then going to Mexico.
Oh wow!
Yeah. What's exciting is I get to do my talk, and then once my hour is finished, I can sit and enjoy everyone else's talk.
Yeah, amazing.
I don't have to worry. And yeah, I find them really inspiring.
What are you talking about at the festival?
Comics?
Yeah, well, I know, I figured.
I'm qualified to talk about. I'd rather talk about nasal instruments, but I don't know if they'll accept that. But yeah, I'm talking with a really amazing comic artist called Rob Davis. He is he's drawn this amazing graphic novel called The Motherless Oven, which was published by Self-Made Hero. And it's kind of a coming-of-age story in this really strange future or dystopia where all these teenagers have a death day where they know they're going to die. And instead of they keep their parents are these kind of weird machines which they make, and they keep them like, in the cupboard under the stairs. They're locked up in the garage, and it's really, really interesting. Anyway, it should be great. He's brilliant.
That sounds amazing. It sounds like you're the rock star of the book world, just like jet setting around all these different locations.
I don't know. You can't be a rock star in the UK on the comic scene. All it takes is for you to go over to somewhere like France and Angoulême, and that's the biggest comic festival in Europe. And you're sitting beside some proper French comic superstar, and he has a line of, hundreds of people queuing around the block.
Yeah.
He's got like 3. That knocks your ego right down to
Everybody starts somewhere. Everybody starts with a line of no line, and before you know it, it'll be around the block. So speaking of being quite goal oriented and basically trying to get people to get stuff done, I've got 2 mini questions. One is, again, like an obvious one, but what's your kind of like one most important piece of advice for like aspiring comic makers? And the second is, what do you think is like the biggest kind of talking point or issue within like the kind of, self-publishing or publishing of comics at the moment?
Well, okay, so first of all, advice. What I'd say is it's really difficult to find one specific piece, so I might give an amalgamation of a few.
That's cool.
Ultimately, I think, I heard somewhere that you should spend 1/3 of your time making what you're making and 2/3 of it putting it out there. So, showing it to people, putting it online, that kind of thing. And I think that's quite important because I think writers and artists all love staying in their own little world, creating their own little worlds out of, you know, pen and ink and living there, and kind of often forget to kind of get out there and engage with people. So I definitely say that that's really important, the kind of 1/3 creating, 2/3 making.
Cool.
And yeah, I'll leave that as my one piece of advice.
That was surprisingly succinct.
And what was the second question?
Basically, like, what, you know, there's all these talks that you're going to and giving. What's the kind of, is there any like unifying theme, or what's like the biggest talking point at the moment in the kind of comic making industry, comic making world?
Well, it's different, you know, depending on if you're from the US or the UK or France. And I think for the, you know, I think comics are really entering a golden age in that the book world, the traditional novel world, is really taking a bit of a battering at the moment. They're all panicking. Yeah. They don't know how to convert. You know,
we were just talking about this with our last guest.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really difficult to convert the written word onto iPads, you know, and online. And the great thing about comics is that they work beautifully both offline and online. When they're offline, they're these gorgeous, tactile, kind of coffee table books, and when they're online, they're, you know, really interactive and visual, and, you know, appeal to the way we're kind of all quite visually literate with reading websites and everything.
Absolutely.
So
you're making me feel suddenly very gutted that I'm a writer and I can't draw for shit.
Gaming world, you shouldn't worry. You know, you guys will be fine. That's part of the, you know, you straddle both worlds there. But with, I don't know, like with I think the publishing world in the UK is becoming very conservative and nervous, and they don't want to take risks. And I think they still see graphic novels and comics as risks rather than this massively untapped kind of you know, industry which they could be exploiting. And if you look at places like Germany, they've really kind of pushed to educate, you know, libraries and bookshops and the general public, kind of give comics a go, and their industry has expanded massively. And in France, you know, you can pick comics up when you go and, you know, to your kind of local hardware shop. They're there by the till, and in Japan, obviously, it's huge. So
yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that's true in the U.S. as well? I mean, it's been interesting now because there have been a couple of occasions of, you know, great graphic novels winning the Pulitzer Prize, or is there feedback or what? No, sorry. Yeah, so there have been a couple of Pulitzer Prize winners. More and more we're seeing, what is that? Okay. Did you guys hear that, or am I just going insane?
It's a plane, I think.
Okay. Oh yeah, so what I was just going to say is that there have been a couple of high-profile instances of people getting Pulitzer Awards, and more we are seeing graphic novels be nominated in the general fiction category in things like the National Book Awards, which I think is starting to, at least in the U.S., they're getting a lot of kind of, they're becoming more credible, they're taken more seriously. Yeah, things like Alison Bechdel, like, she's on NPR all the time now, which I think I cannot imagine a comic creator having that kind of cultural role, you know, before now. But
yeah, she's brilliant. I mean, like, I think it is happening, and you know what? With all credit to the literature world, like the book festivals and all of that have been brilliant at welcoming comics and kind of with open arms and the prizes and so on and so forth. But you know, a lot more than the art world. The fine art world is a lot more nervous about acknowledging comics as an art form.
Mm-hmm.
Although that said, you know, like, I do have this piece in Manchester Art Gallery, and they've taken a big leap of faith in welcoming geeky comic creators into the beautifully whitewashed walls of their gallery.
You're clearly such a nerd. So, kudos to them for taking that risk.
I know. Well, you know what? It's really unusual, and I think that, so it is an, you know, I think, you know, the publishing world is open to differences and wanting new things, but in terms of money, I think they're very nervous about putting down really good advances and really promoting their comic artists. But you know, I hope that's changing, and certainly more publishers are taking graphic novels on. and hopefully they'll see that with the right promotion, they can really start to grow the industry.
Yeah, and I think, first of all, yeah, absolutely, it's good to hear. I really hope so. And you just made me think something that we discussed in our first couple of episodes a lot was like the rise of like comic publishers like Image.
Yeah.
You know, who are obviously they've got so many different titles under their belt, but they've now got that kind of critical mass and momentum where you can walk into any comic shop and buy an Image comic and pretty much know roughly what you're getting and probably that it's going to be amazing. So hopefully, and what we'll see is, like you say, more of these kind of small indie publishers and people gaining that reputation.
Yeah.
Again, there's so much choice even now in comics and graphic novels that you feel like you're going to need some kind of tentpole publishers, and that, you know, Image is obviously the biggest one now in the US. I mean, is there anything kind of contemporaneous or like analogous here in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, I love Self-Made Hero. They're the one who published Rob Davies' book, which I mentioned, The Motherless Oven.
Yeah.
They're great. They started off doing Emma Haley set them up, and she was doing these kind of manga Shakespeare when she was just getting loads of artists to produce these manga versions of books.
Amazing.
They do biography, autobiography, they do fiction. They've got an amazing list, and they really are competing with, you know, a lot of the really big publishers.
Cool. Self-Made Hero.
Yeah, and No Brow, they do these beautiful, tactile, gorgeous kind of.
No Brow are amazing. No
Brow is fantastic for sure.
Yeah, really, and they're so, you know, they really are, you know, two guys basically doing it all. So that's great.
I feel like No Brow could do with one thing that just kind of breaches into the mainstream consciousness like a little bit more, because all of that, I mean, I love all of their stuff, but it's so niche that it's rare to hear kind of most like casual comic fans, you know about them, you know, unless you're really into the kind of like a connoisseur.
I think it'll be more kind of the art world which love No Brow. It's kind of like, you know, it's like they're definitely more heavy on the aesthetics and less on the narrative, and that's not going to work as well in some markets, but it could work. I mean, they you know, the illustration students, the art students love them. They get brilliant, you know, they get all the hottest young talent coming straight out of art college going.
Yeah, absolutely.
They do really well.
Cool. Yeah, and more power to them. And like, yeah, hopefully, like with all of these, just that one, like I say, that kind of has a bit of a bigger mainstream hit will rise the tide for everybody. And for all of the existing stuff. So we've got that to look forward to. Okay, we are pretty much knocking up against our time limit. So can't remember if we mentioned, but every episode we get our guests to kind of do like a pay it forward question.
Yeah, love that idea.
And actually, I think you've got off very lightly. Rob's question.
Easy one.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Well, we'll see what you think, but it's quite simply your desert island book, or comic or graphic novel.
Book in general, not comic.
Yeah, it can be any printed matter.
It's difficult because it doesn't mean that would be your favorite book. That would just be the book which would cause the amount of entertainment for.
Well, exactly. Yeah, and maybe it should be something with some kind of like survival factor as well. So big enough to fend off like a wild boar or take shelter under. So yeah.
Something you should build as a tent.
Yeah.
If I was allowed, I would choose to take. This is a kind of tricked way of answering. As I am not somebody who does just story books, I would like to take a storyteller with me.
Oh, nice.
Is that allowed?
That's
Meta.
Cheating, but I like it.
Yeah.
No, like,
we don't want to be too strict. That's a nice outside the box answer. I think we'll allow it.
Yeah, thanks.
But who would it be? Which storyteller?
Oh my God. That's so difficult.
Well, you were asking for it.
My sister can make a storyteller. She can make a story out of, like, you know, going to the bank and she claims she's been attacked by ravenous dogs on the way. So, you know, my sister. We have a laugh.
Okay. I hope that she hears this podcast. It'll be interesting to hear what she thinks of Have you putting her in that light?
No, she'd love it. She knows it. But what was I going to say? So I've got to do a question now, don't I, for him?
Well, yeah, for the next guest.
Who is your next guest?
Well, should we spoil it? You showed her, or should we just give a clue? Let's give a clue.
Sometimes we get people lined up, and they get to be not next, but the next after. So we don't know exactly who it'll be. It'll be a she. She's into all the geek stuff. So.
And she's a writer. She's a writer, isn't she?
She's a writer. She's very heavily involved in like fan communities and things like that. Okay, I get a question. I get a good question. If there was somebody aside from your friends and family who you could thank, who would it be and why?
Ah, cool.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
Hopefully she'll be telling us all her darkest secrets.
That is a phenomenal question. I love it.
Cool. Darkest secrets is definitely the plan. That's what we try and get out of everybody on this podcast. It's all just a ruse for generating controversy and gossip. Have we had any? We haven't had any really dark secrets from you. No kind of embarrassing admissions.
Me?
Yeah, go on. Let's have one. What's like your biggest guilty pleasure? Again, like books.
Oh my god! Like I'm not ashamed. I have so many guilty pleasures. I watch the trashiest TV. I listen to 90s music. Like.
Like what?
There's nothing to be ashamed of with that.
Well, don't speak too soon. Go on, give us an example.
What kind of 90s music? Come on, hit us.
Trance, Set You Free. Remember that one?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Set You Free.
Go on, let's have a rendition.
I dance around the house when I'm supposed to be freelancing in my pants to that stuff. I'm not ashamed. All freelancers do that, right?
Okay, that qualifies. Yeah, I don't know whether to trance, but I appreciate you sharing a dark secret.
Come on, I've said mine. You guys have got to do yours.
What, a dark secret or an embarrassing 90s band that we listen to?
Darkest secret. Just throw it out there.
No, I think we got to go with embarrassing band because dark secret is not specific enough. Mine's real easy. I am an obsessed ABBA fan. It was the happiest moment of my life. I was in Stockholm for work last week, and I made it to the ABBA museum. It was a moment of pure childish glee for me. But
was it absolutely fabulous?
It was absolutely unbelievable. It was just so good. I met my Waterloo.
Did you?
Ha ha ha.
Isn't meeting your Waterloo? I haven't looked into the lyrics in a while, but I know.
Dying on the battlefield.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was defeated. You won the war.
Yeah. Yeah, they are pretty straightforward lyrics now, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, my darkest secret, musical or otherwise, is it's really hard to think. I mean, obviously, everything I listen to is just so like effortlessly cool.
Well, obviously.
It's probably like really old anime theme tunes. Like stuff like every now and again I just get that.
That's kind of cool though. That's kind of cool. You don't win.
Like like the original Pokemon cartoon.
That's still cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember. Cool. It's not that embarrassing.
True and cool and nostalgic.
Thank you. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me. I cleared out a room at a house party once by going in with a couple of friends and like changing the music to the Pokemon theme tune, singing along to it really loudly, like expecting it to be kind of a everybody like watched it, right? Obviously, but no, we were the only 3 people left in that room very quickly.
I thought you were in that room.
Okay, cool. Well, I think unless anybody has any final thoughts.
I have so many thoughts, but
I have a lot of thoughts.
For another day.
I think like we said to a couple of our guests, Karrie, there's so much I can feel your shoulder and I like wanting to ask you that we might have to just invite you back in another month or so once you've had a chance to recover. But yeah, thank you so much again for taking the time. It's been
for inviting me.
Absolute pleasure.
I hope it was exactly as painful as you expected it to be.
Painless.
Good. Then we're improving. We've got a good little list of.
So we're getting better here. I like
Yeah. We'll be shouting out over Twitter and when we post it up and stuff about like the latest work. Yeah, we'll be hitting you up on Twitter. We've got some great recommendations from you, Self-Made Hero, Rob Davis, loads of stuff.
Yeah, Daniel Mellon Goodbury, he's brilliant as well.
Oh yeah, Adventures of a Duck.
Yeah, not just the duck one.
Not just the duck one, but we'll get all that info out there. But yeah, thank you once again. Thanks Yashoda. Thanks everybody else for listening. And yeah, sorry for the little kind of gap in episodes, but we're back on track now. And the next one will be in a fortnight as always. So see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.